I've always been hooked on one specific question. When did Jimmy McGill actually become Saul Goodman? Like, the exact moment. We're talking about the switch when this good-natured guy who's bending over backwards for his brother, trying to walk the straight line, flips into a full-blown criminal lawyer. So I went digging, and I realized something genuinely messed up. Saul Goodman isn't actually the villain. This isn't some crime story about a good guy who got a taste of dirty money and sold his soul to the cartel. Saul Goodman is a mask. He's a stupid, tacky clown costume. Thick, bulletproof armor that a broken man strapped onto himself, just so the pain inside wouldn't kill him. We all got used to thinking there was a normal guy slick, sure. And then he slowly slid down into the gutter and rotted out morally. The reality is way darker and way more human. Jimmy didn't snap into Saul overnight. He got boiled alive, 1 degree at a time. This isn't the Walter White path. Heisenberg was a bitter, inflated narcissist from day one, just sitting around waiting for a convenient diagnosis to let his inner demon off the leash. But Jimmy? Jimmy genuinely, desperately wanted to be a good man. He busted his butt for years sorting mail in his brother's law firm, studied at night at some sketchy correspondence school, failed the bar exam twice, and we're talking about one of the hardest tests on the planet, but he gritted his teeth and went back. And all of it for what? Just so his big brother, the spotless attorney Chuck McGill, would finally look at him without that condescending sneer. Like an equal. This whole story isn't about cartels and courtrooms and laundered cash. It's the tragedy of a guy who tried to play by the rules over and over and got his teeth kicked in every single time. So he built a circus tent around himself to hide inside. And he lived in that carnival for years until the polyester suit fused to his skin. Hey, you're on Toxic Walter. Today we're breaking down the fall of Jimmy McGill. Not the Walter White version, the slow one, the detailed one, the one where there's nothing left inside. Let's start with the foundation. Without this, none of his psychology makes sense. The episode, Inflatable, 1973, Cicero, Illinois. Little Jimmy is sitting in his dad's shop, sneaking peeks at a Playboy he hid inside a Boy Scout magazine. A textbook street grifter walks into the store and starts working Jimmy's father like a master, hitting him with some sob story about a broken down car. And his dad's saint of a man, but naive as a church mouse, doesn't just buy it. He hands the con artist $10 and walks to the back to find spare parts. Then this scumbag gets bold and tries to use that gift money to buy 2 cartons of Cools. But Jimmy isn't his father. Jimmy already has a built-in radar for lies. He clocks the scam immediately, locks down those cartons, and demands cash on the counter. The guy reluctantly counts out $8, leans across the register, and drops the line that becomes Jimmy's lifelong curse. There are wolves, and there are sheep in this world. You gotta decide which one you're gonna be. The con man bounces. And what does our Jimmy do? He walks over to the till and pockets those $8 himself. It's not greed. In that exact moment, he understood a brutal truth. If his dad was going to spend his entire life as a sheep getting fleeced by every stranger who walked in, that money should at least end up with a wolf. With Jimmy. This is his crime alley. His Batman moment. Except Jimmy wasn't watching his parents get physically murdered. He was watching his father's dignity get killed every single day. That shop eventually went bankrupt. His dad got picked clean by vultures just like that one, and the lesson burned itself into his brain forever. Now picture this. A kid wired like that trying to fit into a legal system that demands you play by the rules, where you have to be an obedient little sheep in front of the law. That's a total system crash. In his teens and 20s, he was a local legend known as Slippin' Jimmy. Him and his best friend Marco Pasternak would camp out in the bars of Cicero for days, fleecing drunk marks like virtuosos, selling fake Rolexes, rare Kennedy half-dollars, pulling theatrical slip and falls on icy sidewalks. And the whole carnival came to a screeching halt the night Jimmy pulled his infamous Chicago sunroof. The story is just filthy. Jimmy finds out some guy named Chet slept with his ex-wife. He gets blackout drunk, climbs on top of Chet's parked car, and drops a massive deuce straight through the open sunroof, right onto the upholstery. The genius plan fell apart for 2 reasons. First, Chet's kids were sitting in the back seat. Drunk Jimmy didn't notice them. Second, Chet was tight with the local DA. In 1 second, a small-time hustler became the defendant in a felony case with serious sex crime implications. He was looking at real prison time, the kind that breaks you forever. In a panic, Jimmy calls his big brother. Chuck McGill flies in from New Mexico, pulls him out of the noose, but locks him into an ultimatum carved in stone. Move to Albuquerque, work in the mailroom at HHM, and you walk away from the criminal life completely. Jimmy agrees. Because to him, Chuck is a god, the ultimate authority, and he'll spend years trying to earn that man's approval. But the past doesn't get erased that easy. Important lore detail here. At the end of season 1, when Marco drops dead from a heart attack in the middle of one of their cons in a back alley, Jimmy slides the gold pinky ring off his dead friend's finger. He'll wear it on his own pinky until the very last episode. Every time Saul Goodman in his radioactive suit jabs a finger at a judge or a client, that ring is glinting on his hand. It's an anchor, a reminder of what he actually is, deep in his bones. Now we get to Chuck. First time you watch the show, the guy is unbearable. Just comes off as an arrogant, condescending stick in the mud. But look closer and you start seeing the clinical picture. Severe narcissism layered with crippling insecurity. Chuck physically cannot handle the idea that his street hustler brother could ever stand on his level. For Chuck, the law replaced empathy, replaced humanity itself. The law is sacred, that's his shield. As long as he's the high priest of the law and Jimmy's the clown from the gutter, Chuck's reality stays intact. That's where his famous illness comes from. Electromagnetic hypersensitivity, sitting in candlelight, killing the breakers, wrapping himself in space blankets. The doctors in the show say it straight up, it's psychosomatic. The man is physically perfectly healthy. It's Chuck's mind reacting to losing control of his perfect life. The trigger was his wife, Rebecca, leaving him. Remember that awkward dinner? Chuck sat there with a stick up his back, trying to grind out jokes about the Philharmonic. Then Jimmy walks in, and in 5 minutes charms Rebecca with stupid bar stories until she's laughing till she cries. Chuck's brilliant intellect could not process getting outclassed by raw, natural charisma. And the rot in this thing goes back to their mother's death. Lying in the hospital, delirious, she called out for Jimmy. Not for perfect Chuck, who'd been camped at her bedside for days. For her younger screw-up son, who'd stepped out for a sandwich. When Jimmy got back to the room and asked his brother if Mom had woken up, Chuck looked him dead in the eye and said no. This pillar of morality just buried it, stole his brother's last words from their mother because he felt cheated himself. The envy mutated into something genuinely toxic. When Jimmy secretly studied and passed the bar exam, Chuck didn't celebrate. He worked behind the scenes through Howard Hamlin to block Jimmy from ever being hired at HHM. Jimmy spent years eating himself alive, thinking he just wasn't good enough, when the truth was that his own flesh and blood was methodically sawing the branch out from under him. The breaking point was the Sandpiper Crossing case. Jimmy, working solo, literally digging through dumpsters, uncovered a scheme where a chain of nursing homes was robbing the elderly out of millions. He brought this gold mine to HHM on a silver platter, and they shut him out again. Chuck slammed the brakes again. Because in his mind, Jimmy with a law degree was a chimp with a machine gun. Even when Jimmy got the chance of a lifetime and office paneled in expensive Coca-Cola wood at the prestigious firm Davis & Main, a company car, a massive salary, he physically couldn't stand being there. Corporate ethics suffocated him. The world of obedient sheep made his skin crawl. He deliberately drove his bosses up the wall with his loud suits, his crusty coffee mugs, blasting bagpipes in the office, just to get fired with a fat severance check. But the nuclear explosion came later, in the courtroom. The episode Chicanery is an absolute masterpiece, the foundation of Saul's birth. Jimmy forged Chuck's documents on the Mesa Verde bank case. Chuck caught Jimmy's confession on a hidden recorder. The disbarment hearing kicks off. To save himself, Jimmy pulls a genius move. He plants a fully charged cell phone battery in the pocket of Chuck's jacket. Chuck delivers a passionate speech about his crippling physical sensitivity to electricity. Then Jimmy asks him to reach into his pocket. The battery had been sitting there for almost 2 hours. Chuck felt nothing. In front of the whole bar association, the perfect, respectable Chuck McGill cracks open into a paranoid breakdown. I am not crazy. I know he switched the numbers. That public humiliation breaks Chuck in half, and Huel cements his rep with Jimmy as the guy you can trust with the slippery jobs. Soon after the brothers see each other for the last time. Episode Lantern. Chuck, in this cold, glassy voice, drops the line that scorches Jimmy from the inside. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but the truth is you've never mattered all that much to me. Sit with the scale of that psychological execution. The man Jimmy broke himself in half for is telling him he's always been nothing. Weeks later, Chuck spirals into madness, methodically destroys his own house, kicks over a gas lantern, and burns alive, inside his own foil-wrapped fortress. Jimmy is left living with 2 horrifying thoughts. 1, his brother despised him, and 2, he's the one who pulled the trigger. Right before Chuck's suicide, Jimmy ran the cheapest play imaginable. He went to the malpractice insurance carriers, squeezed out a fake tear, and leaked them intel about Chuck's breakdown in court. The premiums skyrocketed. Howard was forced to push Chuck out of the firm in a brutal scene. Jimmy ripped away the only thing that was keeping his brother alive: the law. Jimmy buries that guilt so deep it starts rotting and infecting everything around him. The transformation into Saul actually started before the funeral pyre. Stripped of his license for 1 year, Jimmy launched Saul Goodman Productions, hired film students, glued on a mustache, started running cheap commercials, but after Chuck dies, the brakes fail completely. He gets a job at a cell phone store and writes this loaded slogan in paint on the window: "Is the man listening?" And on American slang, the man means the government and the cops. Privacy. Sold here. Then he grabs a duffel bag stuffed with burner phones and hits the streets, slinging them to dealers, bikers, and working girls. This is the point of no return. He goes from being a lone wolf criminal to being the consigliere for everyone breaking the law. He thought attorney-client privilege was a bulletproof dome. He just didn't get it yet. The cartel does not give one single damn about American jurisprudence. But if you think Saul Goodman fully arrived at Chuck's funeral, you're wrong. The actual death of Jimmy McGill has a name: Howard Hamlin. Howard, the blinding white veneers, the flawless tailored suits, the vanity plate "Namaste" on the Jaguar. Kim and Jimmy didn't hate him for any specific sin he committed. They hated him because he embodied the system that kicked them out. And they launched a campaign against him on the level of an intelligence operation. Jimmy didn't just hire actors. He smeared himself in self-tanner, threw on a blonde wig, and dressed up as Howard to throw a hooker out of his stolen Jaguar in front of all the right witnesses. They planted fake bags of cocaine on him, sabotaged his deals. They were systematically grinding the man into dust, while the real Howard was actually in therapy, fighting depression, trying to heal himself. The darkest part? They weren't even doing it for the sandpiper money. Destroying another person's perfect life had become their aphrodisiac. It was a twisted form of intimacy. Their criminal alter egos, Victor and Giselle, were their replacement for couples therapy. Remember the high-end tequila Zafiro Añejo they used to fleece that pompous stockbroker at the bar? Kim kept the spiked stopper from that bottle. She carried it with her for years, from office to office. That cap was their actual wedding ring, the ring of accomplices. Now, this is where Kim Wexler's backstory becomes critical. As a little girl, Kim got caught stealing a necklace and earrings at a department store. Her alcoholic mother put on a Broadway-level performance for the manager, screaming at her daughter, milking the sympathy, crying. But the second they walked out into the parking lot and slammed the car doors, her mother burst out laughing. "I didn't think you had it in you," and handed her the jewelry. Turns out the mother had cynically pocketed the items herself, distracting the clerk while he was dealing with the screaming. Those exact gold triangle earrings? Adult Kim wears them like a trophy in almost every episode. In that 1 second, her mother soldered a fatal wire into that kid's brain. Love is when we break the law together. Being accomplices is what intimacy means. So when Kim met Jimmy, it was just her childhood trauma activating. Right before he dies, Howard shows up at their apartment and nails the diagnosis with surgical precision. There's something missing inside of both of you. You do this because you get off on it. And right at that exact moment, there's a knock on the door. Lalo Salamanca, the most cold-blooded monster in the entire show. While the other gangsters snarl and wave guns around, Lalo grins, makes tacos, tells funny stories, which makes him 100 times scarier. He walks into the apartment, sees Howard. Hamlin, having no idea who he's looking at, politely mumbles something about bad lawyers. And Lalo just silently, with this deeply creepy professional routine, screws a suppressor onto his pistol and puts one round in Howard's head. No threats. Mid-sentence. The body hits the hardwood with this wet thud, blood pours into the carpet, and only then does Lalo casually look up at Jimmy and Kim, frozen in primal terror. Okay, let's talk. Jimmy McGill died right there, on the carpet of his own apartment, next to the cracked open skull of a totally innocent man. What followed was pure surrealism. The cleaner, Mike, showed up and staged the whole thing as a cocaine addict's suicide on a beach. The body of a respectable lawyer got dumped into a construction pit and buried under the concrete floor of Gus Fring's future superlab, an unmarked grave under tons of concrete, where Walter White would later cook his meth. At the wake at HHM, Kim coldly, without blinking, lies straight to Howard's widow's face. And that's what finally breaks her. But there's another detail breaking her too. The reason a lot of viewers hate her. Kim knew Lalo was alive. A few weeks before this, Mike had warned her on the street that Salamanca survived the hit in Mexico. Kim could have told Jimmy, but she stayed quiet. Because she knew if Jimmy found out about Lalo, they'd panic, run, and shut down the operation against Howard. Kim sacrificed someone else's safety for the high of running the con. And that guilt ate her alive. She turns in her law license, walks away from everything she'd built her whole life around, moves to Florida, and takes a job at a sprinkler hose company, punishing herself with maximum grayness, maximum meaninglessness. She finally understood what Jimmy was terrified to admit. Together, they were lethal poison. When Kim leaves with her suitcases, Jimmy loses the last reason he had to stay human. That kind of pain has to be paved over with concrete, so he puts on the clown armor, the full Saul Goodman costume, the radioactive ties, the styrofoam columns, the gold toilet, the inflatable Statue of Liberty. This isn't aggressive marketing. This is a sarcophagus. You can't shoot a clown with words. A clown doesn't feel guilt. The phrase Saul Goodman became an incantation hiding a corpse. Look at the giant tequila bottle stopper sign over his office. In one of the flash forwards, that exact spiked cap from the bar falls out of Saul's desk drawer onto the asphalt. He kept that stopper for years among all the gold-plated junk because he physically could not let go of Kim. But before this full transformation, there was the episode Bagman, the one that broke Jimmy's mind. He drives alone to the Mexican border to pick up a $7 million bail for Lalo. On the way back, hitmen run him off the road. Jimmy is on his knees in the desert, ready to take a bullet to the head when Mike Ehrmantraut from a sniper's nest annihilates the ambush squad. Then the two of them have to drag the heavy duffel bags of cash on foot through a baking desert. Jimmy is forced to drink his own urine to stay alive. And to distract the sniper who's still out there hunting them, Jimmy wraps himself in a foil emergency blanket, the exact same kind of blanket Chuck used to hide from the world. Jimmy is literally using the symbol of his dead brother's madness to survive. When they finally make it out, Mike gives him the bad choice road monologue. He lays out the facts. You took a step. Now you're on a highway with no exits. You're not a lawyer anymore. You're cartel property. The grand finale of this meat grinder happens back in the apartment when Lalo comes back to verify the desert story. He doesn't beat Jimmy. He just sits on the couch and monotonously taps the barrel of his pistol against the glass of the fish tank, making Jimmy retell the lie over and over. That's the moment animal fear moves into Jimmy's body and never leaves. Remember in Breaking Bad, when Walter and Jesse drag Saul out to the desert in ski masks to a freshly dug grave and he's screaming, "It wasn't me, it was Ignacio. Lalo didn't send you." That's not a funny scene with a cowardly lawyer. That's full-blown PTSD. A maimed man who spent every second of his life waiting for the smiling Mexican with a pistol to walk out of the dark. After the Lalo case, the courts shut Saul out for good. Prosecutor Bill Oakley hits him with the line, "There's evidence, and there's knowing. We know who you are. All that's left for the outcast is to service the absolute bottom of Albuquerque." And here's the final phase. Omaha. Gene Takovich, the mustached, balding Cinnabon manager living in a black and white purgatory, a life with no color and no flavor. There's something poetic about the cleaner sending Jimmy specifically to Nebraska because Kim had grown up on the Kansas-Nebraska border. Saul buried himself in the snow in the one place where he might still catch the ghost of Kim. And even there, at the deepest pit of paranoia, he relapses. The trigger is a phone call from Kim, calling him from a payphone, coldly telling him he should turn himself in. Gene smashes the phone in a rage and dives back into the cons. He's got a stash of diamonds. He doesn't need money, but without the criminal adrenaline, he literally doesn't know how to breathe. Without Kim, the moral break, Gene loses every last shore. He starts drugging random guys with barbiturates in bars and stealing their identities. And when one of his marks turns out to be a guy with terminal cancer direct parallel to Walter White, that doesn't stop Gene at all. He breaks into the man's house, and during a panic moment is ready to bash a sick man's skull in with the urn holding the man's own dead dog's ashes. And a little later, he is coldly wrapping a phone cord around his fist, ready to strangle a harmless old lady, Marion played brilliantly by Carol Burnett, when she figures out who he really is. The addiction never went anywhere. It was just waiting for the excuse. And here's the grand finale. Episode Saul Gone. Caught by the cops. Jimmy is in a federal interrogation room, and one last time he straps on the Saul armor. He virtuosically negotiates the deal of the century with the feds. He cuts his life sentence down to a measly 7 years in a comfortable golf resort prison. He has the audacity to negotiate for mint chocolate chip ice cream and to mock Hank Schrader's widow, playing the cartel's victim. He beat them all again. The system is hacked. Then on the plane, he finds out Kim went to the prosecutors herself, filed an affidavit, took responsibility for what they did to Howard, dooming herself to civil lawsuits and total financial ruin, just to clean her conscience. And for Jimmy, his genius 7-year deal instantly turns into garbage. He does the one thing only Jimmy McGill could do. He cons Kim into showing up at the sentencing hearing. He drops a hint to the prosecutors that he's about to give them new dirt on her. He knows she'll hear about it. He knows she'll come. Because without her eyes in that courtroom, he doesn't have the strength for what he's about to do. Looking right at her, he detonates his own deal, publicly confesses to working with the cartel by choice, to building Heisenberg's empire. And most importantly, for the first time, under oath, he tells the truth about his brother. I took the law from him, and after that he killed himself. That shouldn't have happened, and I live with that. The judge snaps at him, irritated. Mr. Goodman, sit down. And he raises his head and says, clean as a bell. The name's McGill, James McGill. Saul Goodman dies right there. The man voluntarily trades 7 years for 86 years in maximum security at ADX Montrose. Because he finally got it. Real freedom isn't escaping the feds and his own sins inside a criminal clown costume. Real freedom is responsibility. The time machine theme is closed off in this beautifully circular way. In the finale, Jimmy has 3 flashbacks, 3 conversations with dead men. Mike, Walter, Chuck. With Mike and Walt, Jimmy is the one asking the question, where would you go if you had a time machine? And while a hitman and a meth kingpin honestly answer with their personal tragedies, Mike with the first bribe he ever took, Walt with leaving his company, Jimmy bails. He spits out plastic nonsense about investing in Warren Buffett and a fake knee injury. To the very last second, he is running from the truth. But in the flashback with Chuck, the words time machine are never spoken. We're just shown Chuck reading H.G. Wells's classic novel, The Time Machine, by the light of a gas lantern. Chuck gently invites his brother to stay, to talk, to try and connect, person to person, and Jimmy coldly waves him off and walks out into the dark. And only in that courtroom, after he gets his 86 years, does he finally activate his own time machine. Not to magically rewrite the past, to stop lying to himself in the present. This show isn't a crime thriller. It's about a kid from Cicero who decided to be a wolf and then spent his entire life trying to fake being a sheep. And he failed. But in the finale, he did something neither predators nor prey are capable of. Chuck died hiding behind the holiness of the law, refusing to admit his own bile and envy. Jimmy McGill used the legal system to write his own deserved sentence. The man everyone wrote off as a slippery, cowardly con artist was the only one with the guts to look at his own reflection without the filters. And in the very last moment when him and Kim are sharing one cigarette, passing it back and forth through the fence of the prison yard, that's the real Jimmy. The one we lost long before Heisenberg ever showed up. He was always in there, locked inside Saul Goodman. He just finally found the courage to take the mask off, to walk behind the bars for the rest of his life, to shoot finger guns at Kim as she drives away, and to genuinely smile when the inmates on the bus start chanting the name of the dead clown. If you stuck with this breakdown all the way to the end, smash that like, subscribe to Toxic Walter. We're just getting started taking the greatest shows on TV apart molecule by molecule. Trust me, we've still got plenty to talk about. See you next time.